Hello and welcome to another PC game review. Sure, things are slow during the early months of every year, but you have games that you didn't buy or get to play yet, right? Okay, maybe not everyone has a backlog, and I kind of do. I don't purchase a game unless I'm going to play it, which means my backlog consists of games I don't actually own until I get around to them. With Steam sales, I picked up a few things, and this was one of them. Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 is a direct sequel to the franchise reboot Lords of Shadow. Brought to us by the exact same team that made the reboot, Mercury Steam, and published by none other than Konami, Lords of Shadow 2 continues the prequel story of Dracula. As an action-adventure title, you'll find yourself fighting your way through enemies with primarily the Shadow Whip. Its combos are fairly simple and easily mastered, but many new moves open up for purchase to increase your combat efficiency for various situations as you progress. In addition, two secondary weapons, one that heals you and one that breaks defenses with sheer power, make up the bulk of your attack methods. With combos so simple, combat becomes a matter of learning your enemies, something that becomes admittedly challenging later in the game. This is when you must begin dodging and, more importantly, blocking with planned timing. The latter is more important as it induces a brief slowdown of time and a window to unleash some damage. Unfortunately, both defensive measures can sometimes be more of a hassle than they're worth, and I found myself just freely taking hits in order to get a few more hits in to finish enemies quicker. In fact, I found myself turning to items to dispatch enemies more so than defensive measures in many tougher moments. But then the bosses reminded me that those defensive mechanics cannot always be ignored, and the fights turned out to be both interesting and quite a spectacle. Outside of combat, you'll find yourself doing a lot of rather simplistic platforming dabbled with some light puzzles. You can also explore to collect upgrades, which I recommend doing a little of in preparation for the late game. There's also some unnecessary QTE moments that don't quite make any sense. Last but not least, to change up the gameplay further, stealth sections have been added. You'll either love or hate these sections as they are success or failure, meaning you will die if you screw up. I found them to actually be a refreshing change of pace, but I can also understand their lack of appeal towards Castlevania fans. Lords of Shadow 2 is focused on the storyline and campaign, so you'll find yourself buried in that for virtually your entirety of playing. Taking me just over 13 hours to complete and being a budget-priced title, I again cannot complain about the cost per hour content ratio. Of course, what really counts here is if the story content is deep, and I will simply tell you now that it will entertain you. There are challenge missions on the side if you feel the need to master the combat system, but it quickly and inevitably leads to the same frustration that can be found in the campaign when dodging and blocking become more of a hassle than a mechanic. Art style was one of the strong suits of Lords of Shadow, and Lords of Shadow 2 continues this tradition with some breathtaking moments of both technical and artistic balance. As a PC port, this stands as a testament to a properly optimized game, running at a solid 60 frames per second with everything maxed out on my rig without even a hitch. And it's in the moment of watching the action unfold in raw 60 frame per second glory that I can't help but recommend anyone with a gaming rig buy this game for PC. The game will often look like a moving bullshot. Sure, some hair fails to impress, and facial animation isn't always up to par, but this is a good-looking game you won't regret maxing out. The art style is the icing on this cake, with the modern era being, well, suitably drab, but fitting for its modern nature. But then there's the icing on the icing. Some truly epic music tops off the exciting boss battles, and some excellent voice acting draws you into the presentation of this game. It's rare that I say this about a console game ported to PC, but presentation is its biggest strength. And finally, without spoiling it, there is a moment towards the end of the game where the entire story comes together in a single, climactic moment that almost brought a tear to my eye, demonstrating a surprising coherency not commonly found in video game stories. Oh, and Carmela.
My lord.
As a man who played the very original Castlevania on the NES, I've been playing every non-handheld Castlevania entry like a fan of the series, despite not having the emotional investment. I will confidently say that while this game lacks in the gameplay and combat department, it's a worthy purchase for every Castlevania fan, and a worthy purchase for PC gamers. I give Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 an 8.5 out of 10. That's it for today. Like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe for more. I'll see you on my next PC game review.